Whenever we take over someone's social campaign or strategy, and you realize once you dive into it, you open the hood, you're like, there's no storytelling. And if we don't have that, like, let's at least start with that. Who you are, how you got here, why did you do this? That's the opening story to the brand. And those stories alone, that's what people gotta realize, like, can resonate to someone that you didn't maybe think would resonate to without telling that story.
You're listening to the Rising Tidecast, the podcast for sharing the stories, the lessons, and all the good stuff from legends in the marine industry. Welcome to the Rising Tidecast. I'm Steve Govel, founder of Rising Tide Film, and today's guest is someone I've got a lot of respect for, and I know many others do in the industry as well. I've loved watching what he's built and how he's changed the content game for the marine industry, and he's even been kind enough to give me some advice on my own journey in business. Billy Pavlock is the founder and CEO of Nautical Network and Surroundings Group. He's built the largest social media footprint in the marine industry from the ground up, starting with a single Instagram page and a detailing business and growing it into a full-service creative and media agency, reaching over 90 million viewers a year. And most recently, the 2025 award winners for Marketing Team of the Year by Marine Marketers of America. Billy, welcome to the show.
Steve, thanks for having me. We cross paths a lot during this industry, right? And playing in the same field. And yeah, it's been great to work with you on, just kind of giving you help when I can and support when I can of what we've done and what we're doing. And, also get the same from returning you. So pleasure to be on here. Obviously, I love what you're doing here with the podcast and an honor to be a guest. So we look forward to it.
Thanks, buddy. I mean, you're someone that I look up to in business, right? And I think thinking back, like your journey isn't a conventional one. You've built an audience first and then the business came after. And that's a pretty different origin story than most people in marine marketing. So I'm interested, take me back to the beginning and share when you started that detailing business. Why did you start that in the first place? What was the opportunity that you saw?
Yeah, so during college years, when you played sports, that was the focus, right? And everybody tells you school's really important. You got to get good grades and you got to get a degree and all these things. But looking back, I was there for football. I would almost take the easier way out on the educational side, which was a lot of people was marketing. It's a very just broad degree that you can get. And, of course I had a passion for it. I liked it, but I didn't know what I wanted to do with it. Right? And I really had no intentions behind it. And during playing football and playing sports at college, whenever you would come home for the summer times or your off times, you didn't really have to go work and make extra income. You would always have to kind of do odd jobs because you couldn't be consistent with, a career, especially working through college. And during the season stuff, it was difficult. So whenever I would come home from college, I'd all these odd jobs. And one of the odd jobs I did was working at car washes. And it was just an easy summer job. You get some good cash tips. And you kind of learn that trade in a sense. So I'll never forget when I got asked to build out in my marketing class, build out like a business through entrepreneurship and marketing. I was like, hey, I'm going to build out a car detail business, car and boat detail business, And I remember this my senior year of college. And again, I had no intentions of actually taking that business and running with it, but it was a class project that I built. And then as soon as I graduated, I learned, okay, maybe I'm not going to the NFL. Maybe I'm not going to go play football anywhere else. It's time to get in the real world. Let's work, right? And I learned real fast too, let's just give this business a shot, right? I kind of had the bones for it and I had a good trade skill set. And I also knew that car detailing and boat detailing would introduce me to the right people and, you can earn your way that way. So as soon as I graduated college, I started my own car detail business, boat detail business. I bought a trailer and I would travel the Tampa Bay area, washing cars and stopping at office buildings, marinas to drop cards off. And again, very good at, at the time, social media and marketing to where the business actually, took off pretty quickly. But once I was kind of deeper involved with the business, you kind of make decisions to where you want to focus your time. And I learned real fast after a year doing it that there was more money and, more passion in the boating side of things. That's kind of what got me more introduced to the boating industry. And, once I kind of got introduced to that industry, I fell in love, right? And there was something about the people in it, the lifestyle itself, right? I just never forget being younger and always be in the water with my mom and family when I could. And how much, again, it just brought people together. The lifestyle was so awesome. So being in the industry was really cool to get introduced to it and, getting your feet wet, right? In the industry was, I started by washing boats and, I kind of built my reputation that way as this very, reliable boat cleaning business. And sure enough, I got opportunities to go clean boats for some yacht brokers. And that's what kind of got me into yacht brokerage because once I learned, I saw how they were doing it. Now they were selling boats. I'm like, hey, I can do that as well. So I kind of got into the yacht brokerage game as well. And that's the whole system. I would manage your boat, wash your boat, put it on a retainer. And then when you're ready to buy or sell, I'm your guy to do so. So that's what got me introduced to the whole boat sales side of things. And That's what really sparked the idea of the business model. Because once I got into boat sales, that's when I learned, back in 2018, where the industry was going and digitally. And really, the boating industry did not have a digital footprint at that time. But if you look at real estate side, which again, kind of comparable market of how transactions are dealt with and done with, and even the market itself. The real estate side was there was so much more heavy digital presence being seen for homes for sale or luxury, real estate for sale. And, at this early stages of social media, like you would see true transactions happen on real estate. So I'm like, man, this should be no different for the boating industry, right? And that's what I saw the opportunity at hand was. I feel like the industry was so far behind when it came to digital footprint or presence, especially on social media, that there's something there to run with, right? So when I started, getting heavier into the business and, learning more about the boating industry and again, trying to understand the brokerage side of things, behind the scenes, I had a page called Boats Gone Wild and it was a hobby, right? I would just see a cool boat, post a cool boat and not know what I was doing with it, right? Sure enough, as the following grew, you start realizing the following are real boat owners. It's crazy because again, I realized that, but a lot of the people in the industry didn't realize how important that was. When you're building a following, you're building people that obviously they trust you enough, they engage with your content or page enough that they want to follow you. They want to engage with your content on a daily, weekly basis, whatever it is. So when I started building a following, that's when it really obviously changed this whole dynamic and realizing, hey, not only is this industry so far outdated when it comes to digital footprint, there's not a lot of these, call it, influencers, right? Or these media channels from a digital standpoint out there, right? There's a lot of magazines still. And that's funny. That's where a lot of, I remember that's where the broker I used to work for, he would list his boats in a magazine. And I'm like, man, that's crazy. You're going to swipe through this magazine and hopefully they find my listing, right?
Right.
So I will never forget this. I asked him, I was like, hey, do you mind if I post like some of our listings on Boats Gone Wild? He was like, yeah, sure. Like, what's going to happen? You think you're going to get a lead? And I said, no, we'll see. So I never forget. I posted like a Boston Whaler or something like that, like a 345 Conquest. And that was like the first couple of boats that we had listed with us under the firm. And sure enough, leads came in through Instagram. And I'm like, man, this is kind of cool. Like, this is a real boat owner, at least inquiring about the boat through an organic, Instagram DM. And, I was able to kind of see the momentum there. Right. And that's what kind of obviously just, motivated me to go do more. Right. And that's when the whole model kind of just took off. Once I realized the following was becoming an asset, right, of a digital footprint, and the content that I was creating was actually inspiring people and engaging people, or even influencing people to be interested in boating. Right, I knew I was doing something powerful, with what I had. So
Obviously, you're an entrepreneur in your blood. You're always, making businesses work and thinking of things that maybe most people wouldn't if they're just dabbling in it, but you're full in. And even the way you analyzed and thought about how to leverage that audience and the account and stuff that you had and the work that you were doing, like where in the journey was the moment that you were like, oh, got something here?
it was when a commission check landed in my hand. I think that's
The physical moment.
yeah,
That's good.
that was the physical moment I can picture today when I truly got an ROI from posting on Instagram, right? And it was a beautiful ROI with a sold boat, right? Again, a lot of leads would come in. That's the thing about social, right? Early stages, you get a lot of people, right? People are engaging, they're curious, right? But it's not really turning into anything. And I probably definitely committed to that for a good solid year. And again, it was what I would do was just post boats, and I would just be at the right place at the right time. I would be at certain marinas. Again, I had a passion for what I was doing. If you look at these guys today, like people will set up inlets and like record boats go by the inlet.
Yeah.
That was
Yeah.
me. That was me, 10 years ago.
That's
Like I would
awesome.
just see boats out there and I would capture videos. But I knew the market so well that I would see a boat pass by. I'm like, hey, that boat's for sale. Like, let me post it for sale, right? Of course, there's bylaws, all these things you got to be cautious of. Like, is it a co-broker's boat? Where these boats are for sale? Can you advertise it and all these things? But, I just played the guerrilla marketing of, hey, let me just list all these boats that I saw, knowing they're for sale. But I would say the aha moment was, yeah, leads would come in. I'll never forget the transaction happened. My first boat sale was a Mystic power boat. I think it was like $700,000 boat, so bigger, nice performance center console. We posted a boat on Instagram, again, organic post, didn't put any dollars behind it. And I get a DM from some guy out of the country, and he's like, hey, so and so, or hey, boat's going wild. I'm curious. I'm interested about this boat. Can you call me? And I legit remember at 10 o'clock at night, picking up the phone on Instagram, seeing his number on Instagram, calling him and saying, hey, this is Billy from Boats Gone Wild. And I'd never forget. He goes, oh, wow, you're a real person. Like, this is so cool. So
Yeah.
once you realize, like, I was legit, he obviously flew in within the next 4 days, and he spent 2 days in Florida and ended up walking away or driving back with a boat.
And you still work with Mystic now too,
Now,
right?
yeah, fast forward today. Now, Mystic's one of our obviously one of our valued clients, where we now handle all their content, social media, and I would say it's in good hands, because we can touch his target market. So that's when I knew I had a proven concept. That's when I knew I could take this to any brokerage firm, any brand, and be like, hey guys, like here is a true transaction that from my efforts on social media and posting my content, right, I was able to get an ROI. That's why you should do it too, right? And again, that's the thing I was pushing out there. It wasn't like, hey, you have to use me. I was just trying to even build the value of like, people need to get on social media. You guys need to be building content. You need to be creating content because you never know who you're going to attract through this content.
You're doing something new at the time that didn't really have a market or a business model or anything. Like, what did those people around you think of this idea and, sticking with it for a year while you're not really seeing the return, but you're spending a lot of time, obviously, building it? And then was that the same kind of moment that they were like, oh, wow, no, it's actually, you're doing the right thing?
Yeah, especially not having to, when you get out of college, it's when I talk to even the younger generation now, like when you go to school, like they're not lying. It's the real world, right? And you got to fend for yourself. So yeah, the detail business, the boat detail business would help pay bills, right? But I wasn't where I wanted to be, right, in life. But the close friends, the families, my girlfriend at the time, my mom, of course, they're very strong believers. And shout out to my wife because for her to stick through what we've gone through in the early stages of this business, right, and seeing it through and throughout, it's impressive to see. Because again, that fact that she's obviously very passionate about the industry as well, and obviously what I do, she stuck through with this whole thing with me, and I applaud her because again, a lot of people probably wouldn't have, because what you kind of said there is exactly what happened. You had friends that were like calling you crazy. You had your mom at some point telling me to get a real job, right? I heard that so many times because what I was doing is so non-conventional that like no one's really doing this. Like yeah, there was influencers and stuff like that, but no one was truly building an agency based off this way, right? I knew what I had was going to work, and I was so passionate about it, and the vision felt so clear to me that I just told everyone to trust me. Like, let me keep doing what I'm doing. I really believe into it. And again, that's the thing, was that so many scenarios got so close. Like so many home run moments were so close to happening that, of course, that's what excited me every single day, right? To get to that home run,
It's getting closer and
Yep.
closer. Yeah. What do you think it was that you saw in that other people weren't looking for?
I think it was just the power of what I had in my hand, right, is my phone. When I would see DMs, like the interactions I've had with people, when you have professional athletes or famous people like liking the content, I just knew there was something there, right? Did I know what it was? No, but I had a feeling like, man, what can you do with all this, right? It was those items that really allowed me to again wake up every day and be like, hey, I don't know what the end goal is going to be here because again, it's so unique, right? But I know I have something. And that's what I kept telling myself. I know I have something. I know I have something here. Let's build this thing out.
Something that is new or that not many people are used to doing or don't see the value in yet can get pushback from people. Some people, early adopters, some people are excited about it, but some people are like, let's do what we've always done and not stray too far from it. So when you first started and you sat across from these big marine brands and had to convince them that this new thing, Instagram, was going to sell their boats for them, like that's not an easy room to be in. So what were those conversations like? Like, how'd you prove the value before proof existed?
I had to give out a lot for free. That's where, again, back to believers like the mom, my parents, my girlfriend at the time, and now my wife. Like, of course, revenue cures everything, right? So when you have revenue coming in, it can cure a lot of doubts. But at the time, I did so much for free, right? And I had to do it for free because I just knew, like, if you give the value out, right? I'm always a big believer. You can give the value, right? There's going to be something in return, right? Especially if it's valuable enough that someone wants to pay for it. And I knew what I had was worth someone paying for, right? So, of course, early stages of the career, like everything I did was for free. I just knew I had to prove something because I had something so different, so unique. Like even the content shoots I would go on, it's, hey, I want to come shoot a free video, right? And any money I could scrape up, I would just pay the videographer, whatever it was, to pay for his time. And I just wanted to build my portfolio, right? So a lot of it, again, it was providing that value up front, right? And trying to do it in a way where, they didn't have to spend $1 out of their pocket. But that's what kind of got me into a lot of rooms right away, was being able to provide that free value. And then once I was there, right, I had the concept. So a couple of cool stories. One of the big ones was like one of our major first retainer contracts, which, owning a business, one of the biggest things you want for any, service business. If you get retainers, you can make big decisions with the business. So I knew we were fighting for, again, I was early stage, I was going after one-off projects. Hey, let me advertise your boat. Let me shoot your boat and advertise whatever it was. But it's transactional. Goal was to get some retainers under our belt so we can actually form this business and actually scale it up. And I'll never forget one of the biggest firms that we still work with today, the negotiation of working with us I actually went into their office after, again, pitching our ideas and, doing a few videos for them on their listings. Now it's time for, hey, we want to discuss retainer. And of course, they were like, tell us what makes you guys so much more valuable than any other, maybe more valuable than a full-time creator, right? That, we could probably pay a full-time creator this contract and we have them full-time, right? And I would really walk in their office and I said, well, look at this. And the night before the meeting, I went online, I scraped all their listings off social, again, all co-brokerage boats, and I listed them on my site. And I just said, hey, for sale, inquire via DM. So I try to generate all the leads into my system so I can literally prove something. And I'll never forget, the next morning I woke up, went to the office, and I literally pulled up my Instagram DMs on their screen in the thing. I'm like, hey, all due respect, just review these DMs and you guys tell me how valuable this is, right? And out of their listings, you had real leads coming in. And like these were just Instagram DMs from real boat owners. And I'll never forget, the client was like, that's so and so. That's one of my clients. I actually sold a boat years back. Like, look at that. He's DMing you for information on this boat, right? So right away, like it was that moment where they knew, like, listen, you obviously have something powerful. We want to get behind you. We like you as a human, right? You do quality work, and we want to give you the opportunity, to obviously do a retainer, do a contract. So shout out Galati Yacht Sales. I mean, that's the client that, they definitely helped kind of pilot, right, a lot of the model. The first ones to actually trust us that, hey, you guys have something very powerful, but something very valuable, right? We want you guys on our team to obviously support us.
Walking in with that confidence, but proof of like, we know our value. And I mean, there wouldn't be a business in the world that would say no to that. That's awesome.
It was really the only way, like you kind of mentioned, it was, how did you prove these things, right? I told you it was my phone. I had no choice to prove what I was selling, right, without showing them like, well, guys, look who's following me, like who's engaging. Like it was so crazy to see like the people around the world that were interacting with my channel and with my content, and like they would come to me for everything. Hey, I'm interested in XYZ boat, XYZ boat. Like, tell me more about both boats. And like you would just spark so much conversation with boat owners. So again, that's what I had to do. I had no choice but to, that's the only way to prove the concept was physically pull it up, whether they took my phone or not, like just you guys can view it for yourself, right? That was the proof of it. So.
And was that while you still had the one page, or do the new pages come after that?
Yeah, I think at the time that was just the one page. That was just strictly Boats Gone Wild. That was the one page. Yep.
I also remember you telling me about how quick you'd get qualified leads to brokers. That was another great proof point. Take us to the first time that happened. Where were you? Who were you shooting for?
Sure. Yeah, I was again, one of the Galati listings. I think it was a Sea Ray. I never forget this because one of my colleagues, Sean O'Donnell, who's been my right-hand man through this whole thing as well, especially helping with the social side of things. But we were on a Sea Ray listing. I was doing the photography, videography for the broker. He was doing literally just behind the scenes, iPhone video content, micro content. And again, he wasn't live streaming, but he was literally putting live feeds up on Instagram stories. And sure enough, someone calls a broker as we're on the boat. And okay, this is going through, again, because as we're on this listing, Sean's getting the information, putting it out there on Instagram, asking the broker, hey, what's the year, make, and model? What's the price? And the people would engage, and you ask the broker for his information, and broker gets a call on the boat. And he's like, hey, he's like, I'm inquiring about the Sea Ray. And the guy's like, the boat's not even on the market yet. How do you know about the Sea Ray? And the guy's like, oh, I saw it on Instagram. And like, I'll never forget, like, he was like, how the hell did that happen? Like, how did you guys get a potential lead to come in, right, while we're being on the boat? And then the reality was, there was just the power of social media at the time, right? And, again, back to, again, social media itself as the boating industry, like, there wasn't a lot of channels doing it. Now, today, there's a huge ecosystem of pages and brands out there, right, all done a good job. But like 7 years ago, like it was only a few of us out there. So like you kind of control the market when you put listings or something new out there. So again, it was super unique to see those things.
Yeah, it's amazing. And you've helped shape that. I mean, that's the great thing about this is like, yes, it is different now. The reach is different. Like, I don't know how often that still happens now. Maybe it still does. I don't know. But the whole, I guess, idea behind it and seeing the opportunity is amazing. And so tell me more about those other opportunities that you saw, like for the other pages and stuff. How'd that evolved?
Yeah. So of course, the main focus was, of course, Boats Gone Wild, right? And of course, when we got some retainers and got some clients under our belt, and we kind of had just a model, right? Hey, we were offering, I think the early stages of what we're doing was this, we'll come offer production. Well, first, before even production, it was, hey, we'll just advertise our boat, right? We were another, call it a listing platform, right? For more exclusive listings, right? And my original target market was, I thought of Boats Gone Wild. I thought of these super high end, performance boats, center consoles, your 4-engine at the time. I don't think there's that many 5-engine boats by the time, like, quad engines was the most. your four engines, triple engine boats was what I wanted to go focus on. These high
Mhm.
performance, super cool, like,
All the wow factor.
yeah, the wow factor. So that was always the boats gone wild mentality. And that was my focus for the majority of the time. But of course, how we started building these things out and focus on the model, which was, hey, we'll advertise our boat, whether we come out there and shoot iPhone content or whatever it was, or you guys send us the content, we can advertise it. Then of course it transitioned to understanding the need for content creators to get into the industry, right? Because I think at the time there was a lot, just it was more photo focused, right? So you had a lot of photographers, but not really video focused. So we saw a huge need for that. So we opened up the door to obviously get in, learn how to create content, how to fly drones. And like I said, early stages, I would hire my buddy that never flown a drone or never flown on a boat. And I'm just like, listen, just trust me. Like, I'll direct you, I'll help you out, right?
Yeah,
So
trust me. Wear this helmet
yeah,
and hold
yeah,
this glove.
exactly, exactly. Again, that was our core model, right? We can come shoot your listing and of course advertise it. That being said, we would obviously opportunities to shoot boats or advertise boats that were kind of outside of the brand of Boats Gone Wild, right? Whether it's a wakeboard boat or a actual sport fishing yacht, or a just old motor yacht, whatever it was, right? It didn't really fit the vibe, right, that I was trying to carry with Boats Gone Wild. And I'm like, how do we go now partner with pages or go start acquiring brands, right, that we can now potentially rebrand into that niche or that community of the industry? And again, people would actually request, because I was, through community engagement on Boats Gone Wild, I would ask, hey, what kind of boats do you want to see more of, right? People would say, hey, I want to see more fishing boats, right? So it kind of my mind is sparked, like, how do you build out these micro communities? And I would actually go acquire Instagram channels. And these would be other boat channels that have a very small following where they have just like, enough momentum that we needed, or it'd be a fishing channel that was more fishing specific. But hey, once we acquired it, we rebranded it into an actual boat page. So we would go buy these sub pages out and we rebranded it into these micro communities, right? So you have Sport Fishing Network, you have Wake Boat Network, you have Performance Boat Network, Yachting Network. So as we all know, it's the industry. Yes, it's a small industry, but we all understand, like, we all have our own audiences that we want to go attract, right? So that's what I kind of saw the opportunity was that, like, how do you start building out these micro communities so you can start hyper focusing within those niches of the industry?
Yeah, super smart. Out of that time starting up in the early days to, where you're growing and almost to where you are now, like, what do you think's been the hardest stretch for you, for the business and for you?
I think it's just with any business alone, yeah, it's the people, right? It's who you bring on and who you can lean on. And again, I've just been very fortunate, right, to have the right team members come in and help me. The business has been alive for, what did I say, 9 years now, and we've had guys now going on 7 years with us, right? So if you get people that can drag the company down, or they want to have other focuses on other things, they don't see the bigger vision, right? It can slow operations down and slow down momentum and slow down reputation of your business. And yeah, that's a big part of like where we've struggled in the past is like, again, you're just trying to get that right team in place. And again, once you kind of get I feel like these certain phases of foundational teams, like you start realizing, again, once we got the leader in the creative department, you start seeing a increase in our creative department now, momentum going, because now you have a leader there that can control a lot of these, other creators, right? And the leader you put in that position, right, he's gone through probably the same lifestyle a lot of these other freelance guys have gone through the ringer. Where like, hey, I love creative, right? I love shooting content, but I tried to start my own business, but I can't get it rolling. And they realize too, like, running a business can be hard, especially when you want to be a freelance guy. You have taxes, you have operational expense, you have a lot of things that you probably don't account for when you're looking at the freelance world. So again, finding guys that can share relevancy, I feel like, to a lot of the other people that we wanted to hire and be around was the most important thing, because I didn't have to sell a business. I had really my leaders now, right, being able to get guys bought in, right, and get guys committed to the team, which of course that's what got us to where we're at today. I mean, again,
Right.
it's the legit that I always said it. You build the people and people build the business, and that's the reality of it.
We chat about that. That was a question I asked you on one of our first calls ever together. And I asked you about the team because from the outside, it's really impressive, right? The scale of what you guys do. And, I asked you because I was like, how do you do that? Because in my experience, getting content creators to stay in a full-time role can be challenging because freelance is so appealing, right? And they can make a decent living with little knowledge and a bit of gear. But you told me there was one key to the people part of things. Do you remember what you said that was to kind of keep growing and keep them happy and with you?
Yeah, so the culture. That's what you can look at our team, you look at a lot of our BTS videos and what we do. That's so we try to drive, right? And I think that is one of the most important things. And it's the small things, right, that we try to. It's funny because even like my integrator of my company came to me the other day, and he was like, man, he's like, we did a happy hour for St. Patrick's Day. And like, just that simple initiative to get the group to, hey, shut your laptops. Let's sit down in the office. We're gonna drink green beer and have a one green beer before the end of the day, right? It like sparks such a refreshment of each other. Like let's just talk and not talk about business and like just have a good laugh. And it just reminded me too, like how important those little things matter, right? And that was a big part of the culture that, we've always been driving is like, how can we enjoy the people that we work with every single day, right? It makes work way more enjoyable when you can go to the office and like you feel like you're working with a friend, right? Or hey, you guys can go do a workout after work or a morning run before work. And like those things are so impactful to me. I always said like your at-home environment can obviously affect a business, right? Because if you have, people they go home and they're unhealthy or they're unhappy, right? They're going to get the best value out of them from a workforce, right? So I'm always a big believer in culture and again, how you increase people's mindset, right? And again, that's the type of people we try to carry and bring around our environment, when we recruit people.
I know you do a lot besides green beer too. Like you've told me too about bringing in financial people to help them with their own personal finances and stuff. And I think that's awesome. It's a great example of being a really great leader.
Thank you.
How many people are on your team now?
So we have full-time, there's 20 of us full-time.
Okay.
And then we probably work with, I would say throughout the year, anywhere from 5 to 10 like contractors throughout the US.
Right.
Wise.
Okay, cool. And I think probably one key too to that is like when you're finding new team members, something we talked about was the passion. So finding people who are genuinely passionate about this industry is another key to being happy with where you're working. So I know roles are very different, but how do you find that common thread of passion about the industry? Or is it not about the industry? Is it just passion about their role?
Yeah, it's funny. I would say early stages of the business, again, your foundational people, there was more leverage with passion. You needed those guys to be more passionate about the industry because you're building something new. When you get more established, when you're able to, pay a good salary to someone, right? And at the end of the day, everybody loves boating, right? So it's hard, if you have passion or not, it's hard to look at boating and be like, hey, I don't want to be in that industry,
Yeah, that looks like it
yeah,
sucks
yeah.
at a day at work.
Yeah. They'll tell me this. Like, I love boating. I love being on the boat. Like, this is what I want to do.
Awesome.
Now, as we grow through it, right now, the people you bring on, I've always says, be open-minded. 3 senior creators that we have now, before they worked with us, I think 2 of them have never even been on a boat and they definitely never shot a boat, right? So this was all new to them. And now it's cool to see this was over a year and a half ago when we hired these guys. And now they legit have literally fans in the industry through all the content they create. A good example is Brandon Ricketts, one of our guys we hired. Again, he's got now a good social following of like, people in the industry that like request him on shoots. And this guy has never even, again, a year ago, he didn't even know how to shoot a boat, right? And or fly a drone, do any of this stuff from a boat and stuff like that. So that's what's also cool about the team. Like, we have a good, obviously, training process in place to get these people up to a certain level, right? Where they can now be trusted by obviously other industry experts. But that was one of the coolest things ever because again, these were guys that probably in their lifetime never thought they would be in the boating industry like this. But now here they are shooting super yachts in the Bahamas, taking the drone off with their hand, catching it in their hand, and having a blast doing it and literally getting requested by certain manufacturers to make sure this guy's on my shoot, so.
That's awesome. What was the job ad that brings a non-boater into with maybe a little interest in this looks cool? I don't know if you put the Bahamas in the ad or not, but.
What we did from a marketing standpoint, recruiting standpoint was I was a big believer in BTS and just, again, how do you showcase the team as much as possible, right? And you get a lot more engagement that way. But like I said, at the end of the day, it's hard to look at the lifestyle we're in or the boats we do, right? Or the certain trips we go on and be like, I don't want to be surrounded by that, right? So that's the cool thing about the brand itself. Like we position ourselves really well where the brands that we were focused on were, obviously higher end products, bigger boats, the more wow factor. So of course it helped out with, getting people just at least interested in it. And then the selling point was the culture aspect of it. And I refer back to a lot of the boat shows. The boat shows were huge for us because the boat shows allowed us to have basically a platform, right? Where you have every exhibitor, right? Every vendor, every boat manufacturer, whatever it is there. Throughout the years, we would get enough clients that we can bring in, of course, a team to fill a lot of content orders or media orders. And we actually invest into the boat show. We never really, the first early stages, like we'd have all these clients. People thought we made all this money, but no, we would actually spend money because this was our chance to get creators that, again, we would obviously overhire the shows, knowing we can get new people within our organization. And what we would do was we would have, of course, again, a big culture driving factors. So, you had the sprinter van, pick up the team, and you had, breakfasts every day. You had lunch delivered every day. You have team dinners and team meetings. And like, we just rolled the red carpet to this team. So when we had people that were interested in working with us, we would literally fly these guys in around the US. We've even had guys now from Europe that, and again, this is all like, what's crazy about this whole thing too was the team we have, like at least once a year, I get a wild card. And it's someone that I find on Instagram or someone finds on Instagram with my team. They're like, look at this guy. He does planes or boats over in Europe.
So, what you've built, what does that look like now?
During the years of this journey, right, you had marine focused, marine heavy, and we're able to expand even services outside of creative. What I saw during this journey was the need for a marine specific marketing agency. You realize through a lot of brands that they wanted to bring on a full-time marketing, maybe social media person. And again, it's cool to see like as years gone by, everybody now knows how important it is to be on social media, to have content, et cetera, right? So these big brands need to go hire someone. And typically they go hire an individual and they expect this person to be able to shoot content, edit content, run social media, and just do all these things, right? But also understand the boating industry as a whole. And I think that's where a lot of people struggle, right? Is brands start to realize that they have to spend so much time educating someone on the industry that they just hire to run, of course, all their marketing, et cetera. So that was a pain point for a lot of people. So, we're able to, over the course of the years, transition this Nautical network into a full service agency. Our approach was this, like, we just knew that if you work with one agency, like our web guy knows boating, our content creator knows boating, our social media person knows boating. So like, you're going to have so much more value dealing with us and a lot less headache educating us on the industry or who your target market is, because we kind of realize we know most of that.
Yeah, talking the talk and having the right words and understanding the culture too while you're on the shoots,
Yep.
right?
So with that being said, again, that we were able to, again, it was cool because you go on certain boats, right? And again, that's another part too, is like how you are around the captains or the owner of the boat, right? And our team, again, we don't get starstruck. We've been on boats. We have our sea legs, call it. So it was cool because we'll be on boats and we'll ask the captain, hey, want me to untie the fender? Want me to, give me a line to tie up? And like, they were never used to this, never used to a content creator come on board, trying to lend a hand and knowing how to lend a hand, right, from the boating side of things. So it just sparked a lot more of like, our reputation in the industry. And that was a big thing to me. Like we actually had all our guys go through like some type of training, just like simple stuff. Like, here's how you tie lines. Here's how you hang fenders. Like, hey, if we're going into a dock, here's where we want you to stand. And like, we've actually trained on those things, knowing like it comes in handy and it also leads into a better customer experience when working with us. So that was the nautical side. And then what transpired was, of course, we were so heavily focused in there. I think we established a great company within that industry. But as you realize, the industry is a small industry, but it's an industry where you definitely create certain, once you're in certain circles, I feel like you build some sort of etiquette, right? Because people do get starstruck when they see these big yachts or whatever it is. But we built some type of etiquette with our company, our team, that throughout this journey, there was opportunities to go work in other industries, such as real estate or private aviation, to where it was actually kind of cool. The opportunities actually came from the Instagram channel Boats Gone Wild, which is crazy about this whole journey because that obviously what built the first company.
Gift that keeps on giving.
Correct, exactly. So that was the B2B side, right? Boats Gone Wild helped support the B2B, right? But then the other standpoint was I talked to all these consumers, right? These are all boat owners. Of course, if you can afford a boat with quad engines, 3 engines, whatever it is, you're probably doing something well in your life, typically running a business of some sort. So really a lot of the engagement to create a new business, which is now Surroundings Group, it came through literally me connecting with boat owners through those social channels and what we were doing Nautical Network. Once they realized the target audience that we were dealing with, we were introduced to other verticals, such as, of course, luxury real estate and private aviation. So we got offered opportunities. Hey, we love what you guys are doing Nautical Network. Could you guys come shoot maybe one of my properties, right? I was a real estate developer. And rather than passing it down, we're like, yeah, we'd love to shoot your properties, but like, let's figure out a way to do it without Nautical Network. So I formed a new company called Surroundings Group. And now Surroundings Group, of course, is now I call it your parent company, which is the broad marketing agency as a whole, where we focus on, obviously the luxury vertical. So obviously the marine side of things, which is Nautical Network. Then you have the private aviation side, the real estate development and real estate side. So we do a lot with real estate developers, pool designers, architects, interior designers. Then we found a niche within the property management space. So like luxury high-rise communities, like apartment complexes. We found a unique niche within those industries. So now we kind of tailored outside the industries, but it's so cool to see now that we're getting introduced to these other verticals, how quickly we earn respect and trust in those verticals was everything we learned from the boating industry, right? It was the etiquette. We were able to take a lot of the key points that we learned through this industry, just the common human factors that you learn, right? Etiquette side of things that when you get introduced to these other verticals, it was such an easy transition into these things. How we act, how we treat our clients, just, how we act around certain clientele or owners of these assets to where, again, we built a lot of trust right away. And then the coolest part was you start cross-referencing the actual owners. So you're like, hey, I shot this plane, but hey, isn't this plane so-and-so's, so-and-so's plane? And like the broker would be like, yeah, how do you know that? You're like, oh, I know his boat. His boat is XYZ boat. And like you start building real unique relationships through these industries. Of course, the whole company is surrounding this group. Nautical Network, the vision of Nautical Network where we're at today is, like you said, it's the ecosystem.
Yeah,
Again, my vision for Nautical Network is think of Barstool Sports, but for the boating industry, right? How do you have
I
these
like that.
key components or these key brands that can filter under your ecosystem where, you're providing marketing services to those brands and you help flourish those brands to where they could potentially be one day. So, we've helped brands build tremendously, like How To Boating. We took over that account years ago or 2 years ago, supported Captain Harley there with, consistent content and consistent social media engagement to get that business up and running to where he was able to hire a new captain and of course scale that business.
That's awesome. Do you look for partnerships like that, like the collaboration angle, as a way to broaden your ecosystem, or what's the vision for you with that?
It's got to be unique partners, right? And I think, again, it can't be a conflict or it can't be, diluting one side of the business by trying to do this. It's got to be partners that we're like almost in parallel with, that we believe like with our services and our values, we can amplify your business, right? And we're also big believers in your business to where whether we have a stake in it or we know we're in parallel with you, we can support you, we're both going to benefit from it. So good examples like the How To Boating instance where, yeah, we're supporting growing that brand, but we also now supporting with the initiative of safer waters, right? So
Right.
getting behind those sort of things is very helpful, right? So when you're talking to manufacturers, you can now pitch this business's services or this business, social media marketing, whatever it is that he wants to offer, right? You can now pitch their services to our internal clients as a whole too.
So you get to be a connector too, which is awesome.
Yep, absolutely. That's a big part of it. And what you realize too, a lot of these brands, especially the unique ones like the How Tos and then like this Marine Source one and these other ones in our ecosystem, especially if there's a startup company, they don't have all the tools or resources yet, or even the content to scale quickly, right? And of course, we want to get behind the business. That's where we open up our floodgates. As I say, hey, like you get our entire team, you get, all our content, whatever content we can share, and you get basically our distribution. So we know we're going to help you grow your channels through content. We know we can capture, unique content for you too. And we help basically scale these businesses by leveraging what value we provided over the past few years.
That's a huge advantage over just being a content agency. You get to be so much more to them than that. And the connection part's probably huge, especially in the higher end of the market. And the collaboration part's really interesting too. I was thinking about this because, even for us, like we both produce content for the marine industry, but what we do is complementary. So you guys do really well, high quality content built for volume and visibility at scale. And then what we do is the brand storytelling, emotionally driven content that's more handcrafted and harder to template. And I think both of those together, no bias or anything, are a really compelling combo for, for a brand. So have you seen that work well for brands? Like when you go and work with a new brand, what have you seen with reach and story combined?
Whenever we take over someone's social campaign or strategy, right? Someone comes in like, hey, we want you to run our social media and take over the content strategy. And you realize once you dive into it, you open the hood, you're like, wow, this brand has been around for 20 years and there's nowhere on there that tells you who they are, what they do, and how they do it. There's no storytelling. And what we always try to open up with, like, those are the basic things. Let's start with that, right? If we don't have that, like, let's at least start with that. Who you are, how you got here, why did you do this, right? At least that's the opening story to the brand. And that those stories alone, that's what people realize, like, can resonate to someone that you didn't maybe think would resonate to without saying those things or telling that story. So just making those key initiatives or investments into getting a brand story or getting stories about yourself told can definitely resonate to people that you probably did not expect, to where it opens up the doors right away. It also builds, of course, we understand trust and credibility. When you can tell a story and you can tell where you came from and how you support clients and their value props, again, right away, you're connecting the dots with a human figure on the camera to where you're building trust and credibility without even really thinking about it.
Yeah, it shows you understand them too, right? And it's great to have that as the foundation. And then once people know about you and know how you fit into their lives, right, then all of the rest of the content resonates at a different level and it performs differently. The brands that you work with, when you come in and you take the hood off and you see that there is a story there, right? They have done that work. How does that elevate what you guys do? Like, how does that grow the possibilities and the reach, or does it not impact it that much?
It does impact it because I feel like that's the hard part, right? It's again that story told, and that content's established and that brand established. The easy part is now just again what we believe in is we understand the biggest variable to creative and success is we like the volume aspect of consistency, volume of content. That's the fun part when you can get these short pieces of clips, right? 8 seconds, 10 seconds long that go viral and the Instagram changes from, 1,000 followers to 5,000 followers because of one video. That's the fun stuff. Right? That's where I hate to call it the easy stuff, but like if you're seeing success and intent with the content, we love it because if we have something already established with their brand and their brand story, it makes our lives easier because now you can always pull back into that messaging of who they are, why they do it. Again, if we just take over a channel and you're like, there's no strategy or no like story to be told or was told, it's a lot harder because you're just posting content and there's no intention behind it or nothing to fall back on. Like, what's our messaging behind this? Like, why are we here? How did we get here? Like, what is the value of what we've done? Like, why should people buy this product? Like, our drone reel of your boat is not going to solve that problem. Like, we need you guys to tell that story first, and then let the supporting content be the fun stuff that we create, right, for it.
When you sit in rooms with these big brands and you get to do a lot in planning, and what's one of the more common things that you see across a lot of marine brands that they get wrong or they don't understand about how social works and how to reach their customers?
Yeah, I think it comes down to, again, I think the content. And I think that's the number one variable, which, again, you're not going to have any successful campaign at all if you don't have the content to show for it, right? And you got to be consistent with it, right? If you post once a week, you're not going to have enough consistency to actually get momentum, right, on social. So some of these brands, again, I think what all these brands have realized today in 2026 is they know they have to be on social media, right? They know their competitors are already probably light years ahead of them. They know it's going to be hard to catch up, right? And of course, they scramble because they don't know how to get there, right? But what happens where people get left behind is, yes, you can strive for perfection, but you can't always just expect everything to be perfect, right? And I always go back and I don't want to bash like the European market, but that's one of the markets that, again, all due respect, like they are, if you look at the boats, if you look at the video content in Europe, it is, they wait for the perfect lighting. They wait for the perfect day, the perfect cloud break, right? Just to get that perfect touch that, again, totally respect it, totally love it, right? But with the fast moving market that we're in, especially in the US market, these brands don't have time for that, right?
Right.
Just to get the perfect environment every single
It's like
time.
focusing more on the art, which I guess it does go hand in hand a little bit with the European countries and stuff. But yeah, you're right. Like volume and consistency is a huge thing. I mean, I've seen it
Yep.
myself. Like moving here, I paused the podcast, didn't produce as much content, figuring out the market and all that stuff. And like we were growing on socials, but then less consistent, and then the growth kind of fell off.
The biggest variable is that content, right? Getting the team, whether it's hiring someone like us, right? Just investing into the content. That's where a lot of these brands they try to get shy on, right? It's funny because like there's a big dealership that everybody knows that we're talking to us right now, and they're like, we got all these brand new boats in stock, and our dealers are like hesitating on shooting content because they don't want to spend the budget on like the of course the dealers, like the main people are like the corporate side, they're like, it's blowing their mind because they're like, guys, these are what we got to sell. Like, you got to somehow get content on these things to get them out there. Like, it's more than just your iPhone. And like, so I think the big thing is, again, these brands got to realize they got to start investing into, creators and
Yeah.
getting as much content as they can. Because again, the other thing too is you never know what little piece of content would change everything, right? Whether it's tapping into the right circle of boat buyers, right? Or getting that one buyer that buys, one new boat every single year. Like, you'll be surprised that pays for your entire marketing salary potentially by just potentially getting that one piece of content that transitions some guy into or woman into a family into this boat that you're trying to sell.
And that's 100% aligned with like the value that you guys bring to the table, right? How many million viewers a year do you get?
Last year, we reached 250 million people across the globe. Just again, combined followings. Very fortunate to have the case studies. That's what we were able to accomplish over the years. Is again, a good recent one is Pardo Yachts. They reached out to us and like, hey, we want to advertise before. I think it was the Miami show. It was. we want to advertise before the show, but hey, we don't have time to shoot the boat. We're out of time. Like we just can't get it done, but we have all this content. Can you guys edit it and do your project, right? So of course, what we do is we always kind of QC the work, and we're like, hey, is the content good enough that we want to put our stamp behind it with an edit? And very fortunate enough that it was. And we edited the video, and the goal of that video was to distribute it on our channels, right, across our network. And again, what we do is we collaborate with that brand, and whatever that call to action, that initiative is, which for this part of one was come to our, again, sign up for a showing at the show. And sure enough, one of our signups that came through our network that signed up for that thing bought the boat, a Pardo 72, I think it was.
Amazing.
Again, off this campaign. I think that just comes to show like brands need to get just more creative, whether it's us or whomever they think about. Like you got to get more unique in collaboration, who you work with and how you get your brand out there, right? It's, yeah, you got the yacht worlds and you got, these marketplaces that, of course, have been there for years. But again, how do you stand out? And that's kind of where these brands need to start realizing, how do you just stand out just a little bit more with your brand and your product to get to the more eyeballs?
What are some things that you suggest or have seen that brands can do to do well with content, even with a limited budget?
Again, you heard my story, how I started Boats Gone Wild. It was this iPhone right here, which we all have,
Yeah.
And I think, again, without a budget, there's plenty of creators out there that, of course, have made a living off their iPhone and simple content, right? So I think it's just the act of just doing it, right? And whether you're doing the personal brand, whether if you want to, sell your product, you're like, hey, I don't have the budget to hire a videographer, like get on camera, set your camera up on a tripod and you be the host of your brand and talk about it, right? And I think people that aren't doing that, I think it's the reality. I think it's excuses, right? They try to make excuses of, oh, I did it for 3 weeks, or I posted 5 videos, I didn't get a lead. And the same as like going to the gym. You're not going to go to the gym for 5 days and expect to be, where you want to be health wise and fitness wise. So it's no different than social media, right? It's a game you got to play. The reality with, like, again, budget. Yeah, if you want to get higher quality stuff, you're going to have to invest into it. But hey, if you don't have the budget to do so, like, start with your iPhone. I personally have sold boats off Instagram, early stages of the thing. We use my iPhone camera. So like, I've personally have done it. I've personally seen it.
I would also say the whole planning part is huge. Like having a plan, not just going to film a boat, right? But just planning for how you're going to do it, how you're going to share it. What is the story you're going to tell? All that, I think, makes a big difference. The future, I think, too, like how people are going to make this content and what's possible now. AI comes into the conversation. I think it's a super important thing everyone needs to be focusing on. It's going to change content, which is, what we're all about, distribution and media buying too, I think, and how people even research and buy boats. So, I use it as leverage as much as I can, as many areas as I can, so I can see what's coming and what's next. But so for businesses that are built on content or rely on that and audience and distribution, how would you like to see people use it?
It's a broad topic because there's so many use cases, right, of AI and, the advancement of it and where it is today versus where it's going to be at in 5 years and how quickly it's getting there, right? I'll start with like one of our partners that we work with when it comes to AI. It's a formalized partnership we just recently inked up with Marine Source. And Marine Source is a new marketplace, MLS, within the industry. And our vision there is to be, of course, more AI centric, right? The reason why we got behind this initiative with them is, of course, with us, we generate a lot of course, leads around the industry and for boat leads and whatever it is, like leads coming in. And obviously we drive a lot of traffic around. And we've always wanted to get a platform that we can drive traffic to. And this is where this marketplace came to us. And they said, hey, you guys have obviously a great network, great audience, a lot of attention. How do we partner together to help us drive traffic to our site? But the reason I say this is what I like about Marine Source and what they're doing, what we're doing there is the AI initiatives. So we're all behind the search like a human component. And the big part of the engine on Marine Source, even if you go to the website today, it's all AI generated. So if you go there and start searching and talk to an AI bot, like it's going to shop, almost not shop for you, but it's going to help you filter down, right, what you're looking for based on just how you type to it, rather. So it's like, I'm looking for, a grady white boat within these years, and it needs to be either blue or white, and it needs to have Garmin screens, right? And like just that prompt alone can help filter down rather than hitting all these buttons to filter things down. So there's like that aspect. And of course, they're big believers in this new term called GEO, which is generative engine optimization. Everybody knows SEO, but now there's this GEO term being passed around, which again, it's when you go to search on your AI chat platforms like Gemini or Claude or ChatGPT, when you search, boats for sale near me, like what pops up? right? And that's where a lot of these brands are now getting to more focus and more depth about, hey, let's spend more time on GEO, less time on SEO, knowing like the focus for search is going to these, obviously these AI search initiatives. So again, I think Marine Source has done a great job of implementing it and trying to get ahead of the game when it comes to the boat buying experience, from the use cases of, again, how do you search, and find the right things based off your prompts. But then also what they're trying to do too is, this morning we saw a demo on it, but now they're getting creative with generating obviously photos and videos. So they literally took a 4 photos of a boat we shot, again, all 4 angles, together 4 photos, and he put it into this tool and he exported it out, and you have a 3D image scanning of this boat by just looking at 4 photos. And it's so cool to see. I'm like, it's just mind blowing at how quickly you click a button and like it prompts this, right? So also the ease of that, where people are taking advantage of it too, is the speed to market, right? If you look at a lot of these big old websites out there, right? They've been building it onto these websites for years now, right? And they keep building all this data into them, right? A lot of these other brands can catch up a lot faster today because they can have less data, but they can use AI to speed the process up of getting the platform that they want to build to the market a lot faster. So
Right.
you're starting to see a lot more of these brands pop up because, again, the speed to market they can run with by having AI and having less people overhead wise, because you're not having all these developers and stuff like that. You can lower the headcount of a team, which of course allows you to either make more margin into the company or charge your clients less, knowing you're not having that much overhead. So there's some benefits to it, of course, in that aspect, because you can find some of these tech platforms that are charging XYZ for listings on their site. Well, then obviously I can come in at a way more competitive price, knowing what they have put into it.
I mean, I have almost stopped typing for the most part because it's so good now. I use a program called Whisper Flow, and it like corrects things, it gets context and stuff. So that whole side of things, I think that's what's exciting, and how you integrate that is really cool. And then the content side of things is also a little bit exciting and scary as a content person.
Yeah.
You're like, well, we could just generate that. But then it becomes around, I think, the ideas and how you execute that.
We've been tapping a lot into now, again, without going too crazy with it, like day to night transitions, like how easily you can by just leveraging AI. And if we have some videos where we've actually added people into the bow of the boat, right? Or actually at the captain helm seat area, like you can actually incorporate people into these scenes now using AI. And they will look realistic. It'll look like you would never, again, from a blind eye, you would never know. Like it's how realistic it's getting. So the creative side is, again, it's scary what's happening there. Again, I don't think it's going to take anyone's job, because you still need a human operator. Again, what I recommend to anyone is, again, learn it, dive into it. Even if it's not perfect today, start diving into it, because again, it's going to help you get to the forefront. It's going to help spark more ideas as you grow your brand. Again, organization. That's what I use it for. I love it for all my search now. I never search on Google. I always search on ChatGPT or Claude. Again, I just get more of a response that I wanted, rather than having to go Google and then see all these random words everywhere. Like, it tells me step by step on how I want it, and it makes life way easier. And I can throw as much information out as I want. I can throw screenshots of documents. I get so much more support and more efficiency using AI. It's kind of limitless what you can do with it.
I think it's funny because, we have words for things like, pass a Kleenex or whatever, like instead of a tissue. Google is a big thing. I asked my 6-year-old, I said, what's Google mean? She's like, which is where you find things. And I was like, right, okay. But then it's interesting to think, like, if Google may still be the thing, or maybe it changes to something else with a generative angle. So I think that's really cool to think about. If you had a newer boat brand and they were launching and had a couple new models, what are some of those first things, like content-wise, to help them with a successful launch?
Well, Steve, I would tell them, first hire Rising Tide or a brand story.
That's not why I asked, but okay.
So I think it comes down to who you get involved with it, right? Whether it's certain boat media channels or media outlets. I think regardless, right, if it's call it a semi-established boat brand where they maybe build, I don't know, they call it 15 boats per year, compared to like a massive brand where they have a huge community, huge following, everybody knows them. They want to pull as much people as possible, right, into this community, to see their boat. It's hard to do it on their platform, because they're their own community. So it's hard to get new people outside into this mix to get interested in this product. So I think, again, we've kind of touched on it earlier, but in today's age, I think it's the big part is the collaboration, right? How do you get specific individuals, right, that you believe carries a foundational audience or following that you want to tap into. How do you make it fair for that creator or that influencer, whatever it is, that brand, that outlet, right? You make it fair for them, whether you have to pay them for it or you have to barter, however you want to structure these things, right? And you find there's many use cases of how you can get collaboration set up without even trading dollars, which happens all the time. You can get involved with certain people that can also spark your brand. Let's just use Regal boats, and they have the new wakeboard boat that came out, right? How do you get a professional wakeboarder to come do a full-on test on your boat, right?
Yeah.
And talk about your wake, right? Like that's going to open up the door to who you want to attract, right? All of
Right.
your competitors, audiences, and that's who you want to be in touch with. So again, when brands try to do it on their own, that's where they struggle because you're only tapping into your own network, right? But if you start leveraging other channels, other outlets, other partners, right? Other vendors, other creators. It's funny because we have competitors call it that, people see us as competitors, but I'm like, I tell my own clients, like, if I had an open checkbook, like, all right, I'm trying to build my boat brand, like, use us, but use all the other competitors that we have too, because they have a following too. Like, be everywhere if you can be there, right?
Right.
If you have the budget, like, try to be everywhere, right? Get every platform opportunity to come test your product, to come view your product, to come touch it, feel it, give their feedback on it, because that's what's really sparks all the engagement, gets your brand out there from masses. And then you'll be surprised of like where new leads come from, right? If call it center consoles only, Alan there, post a YouTube video about your boat, and you get, engagement there. And then we post something on Instagram and get engagement there. Like you have two different funnels of audiences, tapping into your brand alone. So I think a lot of brands either get a misconception about, I call it influencers or outlets or channels, right, that can support the amplification of their brand or what they're trying to accomplish. But I find it interesting when I see a brand just launch a new boat and they just launch it on their own surface, but they don't allow the masses to come touch it, feel it, see it, unless they take it to a show. Yeah, I think again, there's a lot you can do. Like for instance, we have a new boat show model launch where like we have like add-ons. So like, hey, we'll come out and do your commercialized content and whatever it is, right, for your listings and websites. But hey, we'll actually have an a la carte where like we'll get Captain Harley there, we'll get this influencer there, we'll engage with this thing. So like we kind of help try to get as much exposure as possible when you initially launch that product.
That's awesome. I love that plan. Like you could probably do that at different levels, right? It can be kind of scrappy if you wanted it to, but also you can, expand and leverage as many audiences as you could afford. It's obviously dependent on the content, but it's also, I think, more dependent on who you're aligning with. And that's a great strategy. Nice one. That'll be useful for a lot of people. If you could give every brand marketer in the marine industry an instruction to follow right now, what would it be?
Post. I'm kidding.
Just post. Just do it.
I think be open-minded. Again, back to that collaboration aspect, right? I think there's some marketing execs out there, right? They feel, one, they have a pressure to obviously execute, right? And if they use dollars unwisely, then some feels like they get, blamed for it. But what they got to realize, they can't be fearful of someone coming in and taking their job. Again, if a marketing agency like us comes in, like we've had people like getting worried, like, hey, are you guys like, no, like we're here to become your extension. Like they got to find the right teams, the right agencies, or the right channels to align with. And I think they should always consistently build relationships with these influencers, call it, right? Or channels. Of course you can, talk to boat owners and stuff like that, but that's just one route, right? But your lowest hanging fruit is these channels, the Boats Gone Wild, the Center Consoles Only, the Boats Dailies, the how-to boatings, right? Those are what has the attention of the industry today, especially on a digital footprint. So if I was a marketing exec, I would be as nice as possible to these channels, right? Just to build relationships with these people, right? Knowing if I needed a post or hey, get engagement or just, advice, right? On how we got to a certain point. So that's why I recommend is like, just how do you grow true relationships with some of these channels, these outlets? So again, you can piggyback off them or at least, always ask them for a favor or, just create ideas with them, right? And how to get somewhere faster.
It's a great plan. So last question, looking back at where you started with the detailing business and that one Instagram page and the first pitch to Galati was awesome. And then where you are now and what you know now, would you have changed anything?
Honestly, it's being in the position we are today, it's hard to say I would, because the vision I've created from day one, right? And when I told my mom and told my wife, right, it's true. It came true, right? So it's hard to go back and be like, it's funny because I asked a business owner the other day too, like you look back just through the whole journey and like here you are and he was at his nice house and his nice pool. And I'm like, you look back at your journey, right? Like did you see yourself sitting here one day? And he's like, yeah, I did. And you're like, that's awesome. Cause like, now you're like, then you start realizing, like, okay, like, do you remember the areas of like your business or your career, like where you went right when you probably should have went left, but since you went right, it led into the next thing, right? Again, it's hard to sit there and say I would ever change anything, do anything different. Have I learned everything? If I was to start over again, would I get here faster? Hell yeah, right? But that's the beautiful thing about the business that we've created was like it was so unique and different that I got my ass beat like during it. Like I wasn't making money in the early stages. Like it wasn't, I didn't know what I was doing, right? But I just know I had a vision. And I think that's the reality of it. Like if you have a true vision, where do you want this thing to go one day? And you look back every month or every quarter, right? When you're in a certain environment. Like I think a passion of mine last year was I've always had a milestone to go to a European show, right? And work a show in Europe. I was very fortunate the past 2 years, I was able to do so. A big one was a Monaco show this last year. I've always wanted to do the Monaco show. I never forget just being there, reflecting like, wow, like 4 years ago, like this was a goal of mine. But here I am now being paid to be here, right? Around this environment, around these people, so it
That's
is
awesome.
interesting to look back and
Mm,
see, the people that you engage with, right? Of course, like I told you,
mm.
the people as what help grow this thing, the partners that you attract, the clients you want to attract, right? If I had to do anything different, I think it would just be even more outgoing, right? Talking more, engaging with more people, right? If I saw so and so at a boat ramp and I didn't say hi to him because I was nervous or whatever it was, right? Go say hi, go talk to these people, right? I think that's the biggest thing that I would ever regret when it comes to business. Like, try to engage with as many people as you can because again, it opens the doors by just saying hello. You'd be surprised.
I love that, man. And, congrats to you on where you are. I think you've done an amazing thing for yourself, for the team, for the industry. And I'm very excited to see where you go based on your track record and just hearing how you think and how you solve these problems and find new ones to solve. It's inspiring. And for anyone that wants to follow along, I was going to tell you the pages. Obviously, they're, Nautical Network and Surroundings Group. But honestly, if you're listening to this and you've seen a boat video before, you probably already follow Billy's pages. So, where can people go follow you, Billy?
Nautical Network and Surroundings Group. Those are the parent pages. From there, you can kind of look to the highlight section or look to some of the posts and see the more conglomerate group of channels. My personal channels, it's, just search up Billy Pavlock. I have a personal channel there and I post my family, kids, and my experiences as well. So if you want to follow along.
Awesome. Well, if out there you enjoyed listening to this and know someone that would also love to hear it, share it with them. That's how we grow. Thank you again, Billy. And thanks for listening to the Rising Tidecast, and we'll catch you on the next one.